Sheriff Mason Cooper had seen all kinds of trouble in his 23 years with the Oak Ridge Police Department, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for what staggered through those glass station doors on a rain-soaked Tuesday morning. Picture this: a battered German shepherd, fur-matted with blood and mud, limping into the lobby and collapsing in a heap on the cold linoleum, and strapped to the dog's back, using nothing but torn-up clothing, is 8-year-old Emma Mitchell, unconscious, blonde hair tangled and filthy, cheeks streaked with tears and blood. For a moment, nobody moved. "Jesus Christ," Deputy Larson breathed, already moving. The dog let out a warning growl, still trying to shield Emma with his battered body. "That's Jack Mitchell's kid," Cooper said, shock slowing his words. "And that's their dog, Hunter." The paramedics moved in, hands gentle as they untied Emma, but Hunter never took his eyes off her face, not even after everything he'd endured. The remarkable thing, 3 tranquilizer darts hadn't stopped this dog from making his way back. When the FBI arrived just minutes later, the shepherd mustered up the last of his strength, staggered to his feet, and limped toward the door, glancing back at the officers, eyes blazing with purpose. "He's trying to show us something," Agent Reynolds said, recognizing the urgency in the animal's gaze. "Let me back up a second, because you've got to understand. Hunter was never just a pet. He was 5 years old, muscle under a coat of scars, a slash on his left flank, a notch out of one ear, and a limp that showed up whenever the weather got rough. But what you really noticed were his eyes, amber, sharp, and ancient, haunted by things no dog should have to remember." Emma Mitchell was the only one who ever truly saw him. At just 8 years old, her freckles sprinkled across her nose like stars, she had that same look sometimes, a person who'd seen too much, too young. She'd been 3 when her mom, Sarah, was murdered right there in their home, a case that had gone cold and hung over Oak Ridge like a bad dream nobody could shake. Jack, her dad, never really came back from it. The former Marine traded discipline for the bottle, his big frame shrunken with grief, and if he kept Hunter around, it was only because Emma loved the dog with all the fierce loyalty of a child who'd lost almost everything. What Jack couldn't bear to tell her was that Hunter had been there the night Sarah died, that the shepherd was Sarah's dog first, that he'd tried and failed to protect her, and that it was Jack, gutted by guilt, who'd dumped the dog at the shelter. Emma had found him there and claimed him as her own, the two of them instantly inseparable. And if there was ever a person who saw the pain beneath Hunter's scars, it was that little girl. Now, the lead investigator, Agent Cassidy Reynolds, had her own reasons for requesting the Mitchell case. At 42, her whole career was built on finding missing kids, motivated by the memory of her own sister who'd vanished when they were girls. She paid attention to things other people missed, including the odd behaviors of family pets. When she heard how Hunter started acting strange before Emma disappeared, she took note even if others rolled their eyes. Every small town's got its golden boy, and in Oak Ridge, that was Thomas Blackwood. Old timber money, funding the youth center, organizing search parties whenever something bad happened. No cracks in that perfect surface unless you noticed the way his gaze lingered on old photos of Sarah at her memorial. Then there was Dr. Sarah Andrews, who moved to town after Sarah Mitchell's murder, set up a veterinary clinic that seemed way too fancy for such a small place, and took a special interest in Hunter, always offering free care, making house calls. More involved than any vet had a reason to be. The day Emma vanished was ordinary until it wasn't. Jack dropped her at school, distracted, as usual, with a rushed kiss, then went off to his construction job. Emma, backpack hitched, waved to Hunter, who sat in the truck bed, his tail thumping the metal. "See you at 3, Hunter," she called, the only warmth in her voice reserved for the shepherd. By 3:30, the playground was empty, teachers locking up, but Emma was nowhere. Hunter, who'd been dozing in the truck, snapped awake, whining, posture alert. "She's probably at a friend's," Jack muttered, but even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. Emma didn't have friends, not since Sarah died. She spent her afternoons at the library or at home with Hunter, always side by side. When Jack finally asked Mrs. Winters, Emma's teacher, her frown told him everything. "Emma was picked up early. A woman said there was a family emergency." "Wasn't that you?" The ground all but vanished beneath Jack's feet. Within 20 minutes, Sheriff Cooper had a search party going. By nightfall, the FBI was called. Hunter became frantic, straining at his leash, determined to head for the woods behind the school. "That dog's disrupting the search," Cooper had said, eyeing Hunter's behavior. Jack pulled the leash back, harshly. He's been acting weird all day. Dogs sense things we don't, Reynolds observed, but Cooper wasn't having it. We've got K-9 units coming. We don't need an unstable pet interfering. So Hunter was locked in the laundry room, howling a sound that carried down the block, making neighbors shut their windows. That night, Jack came home to change clothes, and the moment he opened the laundry room door, Hunter barreled out, scratching frantically at the door to Sarah's old stud the room Jack never opened. In the struggle to stop him, Jack knocked over his whiskey bottle. The smell filled the air. Hunter shrank back, eyes full of something like accusation. In that instant, Jack remembered that awful night 5 years ago, coming home to find Sarah on the kitchen floor, blood everywhere, Hunter wounded but refusing to leave her side. Jack had blamed him, then needed to blame someone and cast him away. You were supposed to protect her, he'd screamed at the dog. Now, with Emma missing, that old guilt echoed between them. Then Jack's phone rang. Agent Reynolds. We found Emma's backpack by Miller's Creek. There are signs of a struggle. In Jack's panic to answer, the front door was left open. By the time he noticed, Hunter was gone. Dr. Andrews showed up at dawn, responding to Jack's frantic call. He's probably trying to find Emma, she said gently. German shepherds are loyal, especially to kids. Jack's voice broke. Sarah trained him before, but he couldn't finish. Andrews nodded. Sarah was one of my first clients. Before Jack could press, Sheriff Cooper came with news. Thomas Blackwood is organizing volunteers. The best tracker in 3 counties is joining the search. Jack bristled. Emma doesn't even like him. Says he watches her too closely. Cooper's voice hardened. Blackwood found those missing twins last year. After 3 days, Jack muttered. But this was no time to argue. Over the next 48 hours, the search expanded, rumors spread. Some whispered that Jack's drinking was to blame. Others wondered about Hunter, the dangerous dog. Wouldn't surprise me if he finally snapped, one volunteer said. The accusations stung more than Jack expected. On the 3rd day, Jack confronted Blackwood at the command post. We're doing all we can, Blackwood said, that hand on Jack's shoulder lingering just a hair too long. Emma's a special little girl. How would you know? Jack snapped, and Blackwood's eyes flashed something cold. Before the conversation could go further, the vet clinic called. It's about Hunter's here and covered in blood. Turns out, while humans were marching in circles, Hunter was following a trail only he could sense. The shepherd tracked Emma's scent through 15 miles of rough terrain, his military training from a past life kicking in. He pushed through creeks, woods, even the harsh stench of men's cologne and chemicals, never losing her scent. The trail led him to a hidden bunker in the hills, an old mining site locals called Devil's Backbone. 2 armed men guarded the place, talking about moving the kid tonight, because the search was getting too close. Hunter slipped in through a ventilation shaft, reopening old wounds. He found Emma locked behind a metal door, her sobs instantly silenced when she heard Hunter's whine. I knew you'd find me, she whispered, touching his nose through the gap. She told him the man here smelled just like the one who'd hurt her mom. When a guard came in with food, Hunter exploded into action, attacking, disabling, giving Emma the chance to scramble out through a window. But the window was too small for Hunter. He barked, urging her to run. As the guards chased him, he fought with all the training he had left, buying Emma precious minutes. Outside, Emma was found by Dr. Andrews, but this time, Emma noticed the doctor's cologne matched that of her captors. You're with them, she realized. Andrews' mask slipped. Before anything could happen, Hunter burst from the woods, bloody but unbroken, knocking Andrews to the ground. Jack and Agent Reynolds arrived seconds later. Sarah Andrews, you're under arrest, Reynolds barked, gun drawn. But it wasn't over. Gunfire erupted from the bunker as Blackwood's men tried to escape. In the chaos, Jack carried Emma, Hunter limping behind, barely able to keep up. Jack, finally understanding everything the shepherd had done, lifted him, promising, I owe you everything. At the hospital, Emma refused to leave Hunter's side. She revealed that the cologne worn by Blackwood matched the man from that night, her mom's killer. As the FBI unraveled the network, they found Sarah had been working on a story about missing children connected to Blackwood's youth programs, hidden the evidence. And the real twist? She trained Hunter to hide and recover it, using a special command, find the treasure. The microchip with all her evidence was hidden inside Hunter's collar, and later, even more was found in waterproof cases at the bottom of the pond where Sarah used to train him. Hunter had carried out his mission for 5 long years, waiting for the moment he'd be needed most. The showdown came at the safe house. Blackwood and Andrews broke in, drugged the agents, cornered Jack and Emma. A final, cinematic fight broke out. Hunter, though wounded, launched himself at Blackwood, saving Emma, nearly dying in the process. For a moment, it seemed the shepherd was gone, but as sirens wailed outside, Jack noticed Hunter's chest moving, faint but steady. The emergency team worked desperately, and against all odds, the dog pulled through. A year later, Jack, Emma, and Hunter stood together in a life reclaimed from darkness. The shepherd, scarred but proud, wore an honorary vest in Oak Ridge's town square as the FBI honored him for heroism. Blackwood would die in prison, and Emma, finally free of nightmares, threw a ball across the yard for her faithful dog. As Jack watched them, he realized the truth. Love never really leaves us. It just takes new forms, guides us home, and sometimes, forgiveness comes on 4 legs. So, what do you think? Does redemption always get a second chance, or do some scars just make the story richer? Drop your thoughts below and let's talk about what justice and loyalty mean to you.